Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. We have an amazing show for you guys today, ladies and gentlemen. We have a full panel, tons of awesome people, tons of awesome Bitcoiners to talk about Bitcoin today. We're going to be talking about the No2x movement. We're going to be talking about Japan and South Korea, and of course, Overstock and its ICO agenda over there. So lots of great topics to talk about. Really excited to get into it. Before we do, one thing we just got to say, we have to say, you know, what the crazy stuff that's going out in Spain right now. We just wanted to say, look, our hearts go out to you guys, and you know, I don't want to talk about it too much, but just we're all watching, and we wish you guys the best, and we hope that you guys can get through this. It's all sorts of turmoil in the world today, which of course is why we need Bitcoin, right? So crazy stuff. Also just want to give a shout out before we introduce everybody. Just want to give a shout out again to Blockchain Labs, blockchainlabs.it, for hosting Tone Vase for the past few days. It's been great. Tone's been on his show, and everybody's here. So let's go ahead and introduce. We got over 300 people waiting and watching already, so let's go right into it. First, Gabriel D. Vine. How you doing today, Gabriel, from Future Rant?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, our hearts go out to any of the victims of the violence in Catalonia. Very complex political issue, and it's definitely a banner day for European politics. It'll be real interesting to see what happens. Very excited to be here. Very excited to meet all these panelists for the first time digitally. It's going to be a great panel.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gabriel. All right, then we got Mr. Sam Wouters back again from Belgium, Bitcoin speaker and all-around evangelist. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Sam, I almost forgot your first name, Sam. It's very American. All right, thanks again for being on here, man. It's been a little while, so thanks for joining us. Then we got Valentin Schmidt, the business editor of Epoch Times. He can only join us, I know, for a little while today, guys. But Valentin, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show with all these Bitcoin legends.
Legends indeed. So we know you're a busy guy. We really appreciate you coming on, Valentin. So we'll definitely give you an outro when you're ready to go. And then we got our special guests in today. Let's introduce those guys. We got all sorts of special guests today, actually. We got Giacomo Zucco over there, and Mir from Blockchain Labs and the BHB network, blockchainlabs.it. First, we'll introduce Giacomo. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. Your pronunciation is perfect, and thank you very much for having us here.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining us. And we got the lovely lady Mir over there with Mr. Tone Vase. Mir, Tone, how you guys doing?
Hi, very fine. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here around all these guys. Yeah, ready to start.
Doing great. Loving Milan. It was a nice break in between, you know, what happened in London and what's about to happen in Prague. So
awesome, Tone. Thanks so much for joining us, man. I know that you're busy over there and working, so you'll only give us your 2 cents when you feel it's right. But we really appreciate you being here, Tone, for moral support. There we go. Got to have Tone Vase on the show, ladies and gentlemen, or else it's not World Crypto Network worthy. All right. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. I think we can get started. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Lots of excitement in the Bitcoin world here, as there always is. So let's get right into it. First topic. Mr. Charlie Lee has recently joined the popular No2x movement on Twitter that the World Crypto Network, of course, helped instantiate in an effort to show the corporations that Bitcoin belongs to users and not the CEOs. So we'll go with Giacomo first. Is this movement gaining as much momentum as the user-activated software? And do you think it'll be just as successful? Give us your thoughts.
Frankly, I think even more, because in the UASF, there was a little bit some ambiguity, because we are usually on the conservative side of things. Like, we want Bitcoin independent, unchanged. Every upgrade must be super not controversial, and also core devs where some of them were pro UASF but maybe anti BIP 148. And so there was a little bit of confusion there. So it was a risky move, because we were forcing an upgrade that was technically uncontroversial, but just politically controversial. In this case, against 2x, there is no such ambiguity. I don't think that there is any. I mean, I'm sure there is not any core dev except former core dev Jeff Garzik actually trying to promote this kind of political takeover. And so there is no kind of, for me as well, when we started to put on our heads UASF hats, I was like, I don't know, let's be really sure that this is something that is done responsibly with a good VIP. Where on the other side, with No2x, everything started very naturally. Everybody who understands what Bitcoin is super into the fact that it not can be changed for not technical reasons, for just political reasons, not even now to please Jian Wu, how it was at the beginning. Right now, there is not even that reason. It's just to save face and to show power. It's a power show off by few business guys that feel the need to show that they can be political actors evilly influencing Bitcoin developer. So I think that this movement is super. When in Breaking Bitcoin Paris, I put a little No2x, very, very difficult to see sign in the presentation. And our friend Federico Tenga was distributing No2x stickers to put everywhere. There was no one single guy actually, I mean, having any problem with that. It seems like supernatural. So I would say ASF was a difficult moment. It was right to promote that in order to get out of a stale, but it was problematic to understand and to explain. No2x is just the natural Bitcoin social resistance to a very, I mean, a very little takeover attempt. I think we will have to face even worse in the future. So let's start with this small enemy, and then, like in video games, we will progress with bigger bosses.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are only on level 1.
Yeah.
I think I can hear some feedback from you, Giacomo. We'll go to yeah, there we go. We'll go to Mir next on this question. So what do you think, Mir, about Giacomo's comments? You know, I really have to agree that at this point, the only reason that they're actually going through with it is just to save face, just because they said they would. There's seems to be no technological, no scientific reason why they would go through. Mir, what are your thoughts on this?
No2x. This is my thought. For sure, I think that it doesn't make any sense at this point. Just as Voltoro said the other day, no reply protection. The devs are not working anymore on BTC1. So we already had the hard fork. What is the meaning? It's only a takeover, in my opinion. So this is the reason why the movement is gaining a momentum, because there are no reason to support it anymore. I don't see any reasons. Blame me, please. What could be the reason except to gain popularity and to gain something from Bitcoin?
Absolutely.
Right,
we'll go with Tone next. Go ahead, Tone.
I'll come in real quick. I think somebody's gonna go through with it. I mean, even like Jeff Garzik, it's not so much to save face by the signers. Is to save face by a couple of developers. Even if they programmed a few lines of code, they're going to want to use that code. None of the developers that are trying to fork Bitcoin have, in my opinion, have much, you know, what word am I looking for? Like honor. So they would like go ahead and go through with it anyway. But is it bad or am I going to support the 2x chain? Of course not. But I am going on. I am slowly moving towards the Jimmy side of the aisle, in that them forking off will be good for Bitcoin. It'll take another batch of stupid and put them on their own chain, which is going to be fighting with the other batch of stupid that already forked off a month and a half ago, more so than they're going to be fighting with real Bitcoin. So it might actually strengthen Bitcoin. So I have zero problem with them doing it, and I'm actually encouraging them to do it.
Yeah, it seems at this point, Tone, that you're going along with Jimmy's point of view. I think you've come along to his way of thinking of that. Look, the more forks, the more attacks on Bitcoin, the more Bitcoin price seems to go up. It just seems to take every attack and just become immune to it. You know, it's almost like the Borg at this point. You can get a few shots off in the beginning, but it will be very quickly reflecting right back onto you. So looks like we're going global again with the World Crypto Network. We got Sam. We're gonna go with Sam next. We got Sam over in Belgium, and Mir and Giacomo over there in Italy. So all sorts of people everywhere. So let's go with Sam next over there in Belgium. What are your thoughts on this? Charlie joining the movement and the conversation so far. What do you think?
Pretty much agree with Giacomo. It's kind of like it's training, right? We're going to bigger and bigger bosses. That's pretty good, I think. Like Tone said as well, I'm personally pretty happy that these people are going to be forking off or not. I feel like it's better to just get it over with, because otherwise we're going to have this nagging forever. And for the rest, I think it's all pretty entertaining. So I've got my nice bag of popcorn here. That's all I got to say, man. Just keep going. And
That's awesome, man. Everybody get their bags of popcorn ready, because the second half of season 8 of Bitcoin is going to be intense. Let's go ahead and go. Let's go ahead and go with Valentin next. Valentin, your thoughts so far on what do you think about the Charlie joining the movement and the conversation so far?
Well, it's hard to add anything to what all the intelligent people have already said, but I think there's a couple of things about Bitcoin that interest me. And first is the uncertainty factor. So when we had the uncertainty about the user-activated soft fork and the hard fork, the price dropped. But as soon as SegWit was confirmed and the hard fork happened, the price went up. And yeah, now we have a new Bitcoin Cash, Btrash, whatever you want to call it. It's there, but you have the certainty, and you know that it's not going to do much, so price goes up. And I think that's going to be the same for No2x or any other hard forks. Bitcoin is anti-fragile, and it keeps on growing with these attacks. And yeah, for now you have some uncertainty, but once that is removed, price keeps going up. Network is becoming more robust, and I think Bitcoin really can only be destroyed from the inside. That was also the thing that worried me about SegWit. I was like, what if they screw it up? What if there's really something malicious in the code? That's the only thing that can really hurt it. Whereas all these attacks and forks, by this point in time, with these many network effects in place, I think it's really fulfilling its promise to be absolutely resistant and resilient.
Absolutely, that seems to be what we're seeing, especially with SegWit going over 7% today of adoption, and it seems to be growing every single day, despite the No2x, despite the 2x company supporters not even implementing it yet. We're still waiting for companies like Shapeshift to begin implementing SegWit, and we are seeing it absolutely working. We're seeing it reduce fees. We're seeing all the benefits promised from SegWit come through, in my mind, so far. And of course, those benefits will only increase as adoption of SegWit increases. So finally, let's get Gabriel in here. Last but not least, Gabriel, I'm sure the audience is waiting to hear your opinion on this, Mr. Gabriel Devine. Let us know.
I think we should have 56 terabyte blocks, and that's why my company consortium will be launching this airdrop on November 2nd. Actually, what is the date? November 15th or 1st? What is the date?
For the 2x? I think
yeah,
it's
for
15th.
2x.
I think it's 15th.
15th. So November 16th, we will be launching 36 terabyte coin. Call it T coin. No, so I've got a little, I definitely agree with Giacomo that this is a much more unambiguous and less risky sort of movement to fight this particular attack. And make no mistake, it's definitely an attack. They've even said explicitly that they want to wrest control away from Core, which isn't even an entity. It's just a bunch of developers who are trying to make censorship-resistant software, and those that are getting pressured by the censors, in other words, nation states, central banking cabal, etc., are the ones that are behind the attack. So it's very clear that that's exactly what's going on. But I will say that unlike with BIP 148 and UASF, which had excellent marketing angle, and Samson was on top of that with the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. AF. It was a very funny thing. It was a very good marketing angle. Unfortunately, No2x has a negative marketing angle, so it's not quite as easy to sell, maybe. on a purely perception basis. When you have it's like negative. It's like, no, we don't want this thing. So that's, you know, that's like a small challenge. But I would say, but then again, you know, the other fork did well. It's weird because Bcash is like a kind of orthogonal. It wasn't exactly the same people, and they were kind of and it wasn't like exactly what UASF was meant to defend against. So it's kind of this weird minor fork that was very poorly organized and rushed. Whereas this is like a definitive corporate takeover attempt. So there are some differences. But after this fork was actually pulled off with Bcash and all the money that went behind it to pump the price, I have a feeling that they will be able to actually create the fork and do it. But it's might be more messy without replay protection, as Mir pointed out. So I think that the fork will happen and it'll die just like the rest of them. And I totally agree with everybody else.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. There is not enough popcorn in the world, so we're going to keep paying close attention to this and giving you guys the best updates that we can with the the most honest updates that we can. So very much thank you guys to the panelists so far. Awesome information. Does anybody else have anything to add on this before we move on to the next topic?
Actually, yeah, I
okay,
do. What I didn't say is that I think what you guys are doing, informing the public and informing the people about Bitcoin, the more people actually understand how Bitcoin works and why the 2x and the Bcash just doesn't make any sense, the more resilient it becomes. And I have friends who just got recently into crypto, and I recommend them to buy a few Bitcoins, and then they go through the whole cycle, get interested in altcoins, and they realize all a scam, that they drop doing that, they get freaked out by the fork, then they get educated mostly through your network and through other channels, and they find out, well, it's actually not such a big deal. And the more people you have like that, and I think that number is definitely growing, the less any corporate takeover attack will be able to hurt Bitcoin.
Yep. And then Giacomo, you had something to add?
Yeah, just two quick things. One is that things are getting funny even because now we can witness to Bitcoin Gold or BGold, so a friendly attack on Bitcoin. These are guys like they are promoting the immutability and the unicity of Bitcoin that are actually creating a fork. It's something we were discussing about with friends like Lawrence, Nahum, and other people during the Bitcoin XT attack. We said, okay, let's do Bitcoin XXT. And we were like, after Bitcoin 2x attack, we were discussing with Peter Todd about creating a Bitcoin XX attack. So where the dimension of where the size of the block is not even defined and can change. So this is happening. People is launching a fork coin that is actually intended to reduce the importance of single fork coins. I should add something that could be a little bit controversial. I think that in theory, if not done this way, so with a phishing attack, trying to scam and to defraud people, confusing them about labels and logos and tickers over exchanges, and also with reply attacks possible, if it's not done this way, a fork coin is probably even a little bit more honest than an altcoin in its nature. I mean, if you, of course, the best way to experiment with alternative technology different from the Bitcoin one would be two-way pegged merge mined side chains, which is a very complicated concept. That would be perfect. But then just under that, before you start a new blockchain with a new asset distribution, just like that, to snapshot and to airdrop over actual Bitcoin investor will be even more honest than to create a complete ex novo altcoin. The only problem is that you have to do that honestly. In some way, Bcash started with a little bit. I mean, some people like Roger Ver are promoting it dishonestly, but the actual developers were a little bit. They were not so much trying to confuse people. BitGold is, of course, even better. And let's see if right now we will witness to like a new generation of scam coins, which at least will make Bitcoin owners richer by dumping them on the market at the first day. Cool.
Yeah, that would be, it's going to be interesting, you know, with this lack of replay protection, how things are going to go in. But, you know, I still believe that replay protection will be added somehow by some developer at some point. I just think that there's too much at stake, you know, but right now they're going to continue to posture, and, you know, we'll have to deal with that. And I also, you know, want to reiterate your point on the confusion factor. It's really dishonest with companies like BitPay putting Bitcoin Cash right next to Bitcoin. Everything looks the same except the B is tilted the other way. I mean, that is going to confuse the hell out of customers. I mean, people are going to be sending this back and forth. The addresses are exactly the same. I don't know what they were thinking with this, other than, of course, that's why probably we call them Bitmain Pay these days. And, you know, I don't think people are really fully understand yet the power of sidechains. This is really going to, once we figure this concept out and have some test cases and let the market see the people are going to completely I believe at this point people are completely underestimating the power of side chains and drive chains. I think this is really going to come into play, you know, end of next year, 2019-ish, but it definitely will start to play a huge role before the next halving, in my opinion. I think we can move on to the next topic. Does anybody else have anything to add on this one? No? Okay. So I just want to quickly thank our 563 live viewers for joining into the show. If this is your first time, please, guys, hit the subscribe button below. Otherwise, give us a thumbs up. That helps us get into more people's YouTube feeds and helps get the word out about Bitcoin. So let's move on to our next subject here. With Japan issuing licenses for over 11 Bitcoin exchanges and the new joint venture between Bittrex and I don't know how to pronounce that, Kako, in South Korea, creating a brand new altcoin exchange, you know, supporting over 100 cryptocurrencies, and then the gaming giant Nexon buying Corbit in South Korea. I want to know, we'll go with Amir first on this. What does this mean for Bitcoin global adoption in general? And like, will this completely leave China in the dust? What are your thoughts on all this activity over there in Japan and South Korea, Amir?
Well, well, I would say first that, I mean, Japan is wonderful for Bitcoin. We know about it. We know that is already a legal tender over there, and it's used. South Korea, maybe it's a little bit more schizophrenic, because right now there are things not in that direction. So I think it's between Japan and China, in my opinion. And it's interesting also the fact that South Korea now is banning domestic ICOs too. So you can invest in other ICOs, but not in South Korean ones. So I think it's another interesting fact about South Korea. But in general, yes, that's very interesting. We are going to see something from Asia, and I think also Europe is going to respond very quickly, and I'm very curious about.
Yeah, I think we're all really curious to see how everybody's going to respond to South Korea and Japan just seemingly accepting cryptocurrencies wholeheartedly. Tone, Vase, do you have anything to add on this topic?
Not really. It's we don't know what's better, right? We don't know if having exchanges is better versus not having exchanges, right? I mean, the exchanges were banned in the US how long ago? I mean, it was the first country to ban exchanges. They all closed down. From BitInstant wasn't really an exchange, but like from TradeHill and a lot of the other ones, they were all closed down. And America was still the leader in like Bitcoin, not only Bitcoin adoption, but also Bitcoin technology and like, you know, helping the Bitcoin economy grow. In the meantime, a place like China, you know, didn't have anything on there till now, and all we saw there was fake volume until recently, right? And so we don't know what's better. We don't know what's better. I mean, the fact that Bitcoin exchanges were shut down in the US years ago made people in the US get more creative in how to use Bitcoin. So I'm just saying, like, we don't know if this is better or worse. And if they're allowing them to just trade 100 altcoins, then it's clear they really don't know what they're doing, because it's a crypto situation where someone's going to stick basically an altcoin with a Trojan horse in it, steal everyone's money, and then everyone's going to run to the government complaining that they said this was okay.
Yeah, that does seem to be the process both around the world, like both in the US and China, where the government steps in and, you know, shuts stuff down for temporarily until they can regulate it. And then now we have like the bit license in New York, and of course Coinbase and Kraken, and so the volume seems to be thriving in the US now. Perhaps that is what's going to happen again in China once they put all the exchanges back to work. So we'll go next with Giacomo on this. What do you think?
I will try to friendly contradict Ton a little bit here. It's true that we don't know what's better, but actually I think what I feel is better is exactly what we are saying. So I have both enemies and some friendly government, some friendly jurisdiction, because without friendly jurisdiction, Bitcoin doesn't care. I mean, the whole point is that Bitcoin doesn't care, but a lot of bridges, a lot of interfaces from Bitcoin to the real economy, like exchanges or research centers like ours, we will have a hard time without some kind of friendly places to be together. Also, when we discuss about Bitcoin infrastructure development, physical presence is really important. The level of discussion we could have with Ton here in Milan was higher than we could just have via encrypted PGP email. So to have some safe houses is nice. Japan is one, but Switzerland could be another one in the center of Europe, not European Union, but in the center of Europe. Switzerland right now is super friendly and super interesting. But on the other hand, if everything is just friendly and easy, again, Bitcoin doesn't get any training. Worst, even the users start to think at Bitcoin like something that doesn't need to be protected by government level, state level attacks. And so people start to think about fees and propagation time, because the original value proposition, the censorship resistant, doesn't look like very, we take it for granted, because if nobody tries to ban Bitcoin, Bitcoin grows up weak, because nobody knows what they are supposed to fight against. Right now with China banning Bitcoin, that's wonderful, because people are starting to think, yeah, I could run a node using Tor, but wait a minute, I need to be very careful about block size and block time if I'm using Tor or a VPN to propagate blocks and to mine. So I think that the best situation possible will be the one with some safe houses, some base camps where we can actually meet without too many problems, and also some very big and very hungry actors trying to attack, maybe trying to attack gradually. So I could be wrong, but it's like they are following the playbook of how to make Bitcoin stronger. They are both attacking and consenting in different places. So super optimistic.
And go ahead, Tone. You have to unmute.
One very quick comment, right? So no, I agree with you, Giacomo, and everything you said. But see, this is the thing. People get upset at me when I'm okay with what China's doing. And then people also get upset at me because I really don't like a company like Coinbase. So it's like people really need to make up your mind. Do you want Bitcoin companies to be friendly with government, or are you okay with, this opposition? Because what happens is, if the government gives full approval, guess what? You're going to have a Coinbase situation, and then you are going to complain when there is a full-blown subpoena for everybody's taxes on every single little transaction, because that's what you're going to get, right? When these companies get full approval from the government, you have no idea what is happening under the hood. They are holding your private keys. You might be happy that you can trade there, and then 3 years from now, you get a letter from your local, tax collector saying that you are in serious trouble because you haven't, because they've been keeping track on every penny that you were doing.
Yep, very interesting. And it is a bit of a double-edged sword. Obviously with regulation and with having these exchanges like Coinbase, we have to onboard new users and teach them how to use Bitcoin and allow them to transfer, for example, money from their bank account to something like Coinbase, so in an easy manner. But of course, at the same time, like Tone says, they're going to be knocking down on your door for taxation reasons at some point if we give them too much leeway and too much power. So we'll have to see what's going on. We'll ask Valentin next. Valentin, maybe you can give us your thoughts so far on the discussion so far, and you know, Japan and South Korea seeming to be leading the Bitcoin space these days.
Yeah, fascinating discussion and great input. I'm also completely on Giacomo's side. Because again, we have been dealing with Chinese uncertainty. Are they going to ban it? Are they not going to ban it? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? Now we have certainty. They're practically banning it. The only thing we don't know is, are they going to reopen? Are they going to ban mining? Are they going to ban it on the protocol level? I've heard rumors that they want to ban it on the protocol level, but I say bring it on. You know, as long as you can't control the internet completely, which they cannot. They've tried to ban VPNs. They have been unsuccessful. There will be Bitcoin in China, and then fortunately we don't have a completely centralized, globalized government yet, where you have different jurisdictions who say, wait a second, we see an opportunity here for job growth, for innovation, and for taking some global leadership, like Japan and Switzerland. And they're taking the opportunity. And Giacomo is right. We need some of those places. We can't just be in guerrilla mode and use Bitcoin to survive. No, there needs to be exchanges. People need to be able to exchange fiat. But on the other hand, the China thing is fantastic because it proves the concept that Bitcoin can survive. I mean, it's not all said and done. There is some risk there, but I think overall it's a fantastic opportunity. And the Chinese, I've been studying the Chinese for a while. They are extremely creative when it comes to getting around any sort of regulation. You know, the government tries to regulate the property market. It still goes up 100% a year. They try to regulate the capital outflows, which is, by the way, one of the reasons why they're probably banning it. And they're still leaking, they're still buying houses in Manhattan. So I think great opportunity, great to see how this plays out. And I'm very happy that there are jurisdictions like Japan and Switzerland who are on board.
Absolutely. Lots of good points in there. We'll go with Gabriel next. I see you writing some stuff down, Gabriel. I know you got a lot to say, man.
Got my notes.
What are your comments?
You know, first of all, we're talking about Asia here. Of course, the biggest player in East Asia is China. And the theory that I've heard that appeals to me the most and seems to make the most sense to explain the recent developments in China are, first of all, that the news that we've gotten was deliberate FUD, probably encouraged by the government, although I don't believe that it actually necessarily was originating officially with the government, since we never got any actual government documents from real authorities that had names behind them. It was all FUD rumors. I wouldn't be surprised if the government was behind the rumors, but there certainly were not officially. That was all 2013 style market manipulation bullshit. But the kernel of truth there, and I love this channel on YouTube. Go and check it out. Adapt 2030, it's called. The guy mostly covers, I think his name's Dave. He mostly covers ice age, global cooling, and climate change, manipulation and stuff like that, science. But he also loves crypto, as everyone has woken up to crypto over the last year. Even if they weren't involved before. Now he covers crypto too, and he lived in China for years, so he's got a real insider's view. He did business in China, and I love his theory that what the Communist Party, which is the only party in China, what the government is doing is, like they do with all private industry, is a takeover. So they are prepping their takeover of China's Bitcoin industry. And so ahead of the fifth or the 5-year communist congressional meeting that's happening this month, I believe over the next few weeks. So China is prepping this takeover of the industry. And what his opinion was, which sounded very likely to me, is that China is actually very much the government there will be very much promoting and funding Bitcoin ventures, primarily as a way to undermine the hegemony of the US dollar as the world reserve currency, which is, you know, even though Bitcoin also is a threat to the yuan, USD is far more of a threat, and promoting Bitcoin. Now, I have a feeling that it will probably bite them in the ass, but I think this is a very interesting theory, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the case, that everything just pops right back. It's just now funded by, you know, the central party in China. All, you know, all the Bitcoin businesses there, mining farms and everything. Perfect place for Bitcoin because it's the classic Keynesian disaster where they had a crack up boom in the late 80s, and the economy simply descended into depression, permanent depression. They called it a lost decade in 2000. So it's been 25, 27 years of depression in Japan. The youth there are completely disintermediated out of the economy. So Bitcoin, it's fertile ground for Bitcoin. And of course, technologically advanced, which brings us to Korea, which is also technologically advanced. So addressing some of the points about government regulation in general, it's too late. Bitcoin came into the world, as far as they're concerned, ex nihilo, and Bitcoin is the new gold. Cannot be it's already too late to unseat. It's already too late to unseat Bitcoin. It's too late. So now what we have a situation is the classic, this is good for Bitcoin. That's bullish for Bitcoin because it's too late. So any, whether for or against or ignore, is only going to help Bitcoin. It's nearly impossible to do something to actually hurt Bitcoin now. Do is just going to help it in one way or the other because it's a decentralized honey badger. It's too anti-fragile, and it's way too late. I think it was probably too late in 2012 or so. Maybe before that they could have snuffed something out. It probably wouldn't have worked because something else would have superseded it, but it's too late. Bitcoin is already the winner, in my opinion.
I do feel like it's a bit too late to kind of stop Bitcoin, right? Tone definitely makes the argument that, governments all around the world could still ban Bitcoin and do enough harm to it. But, I just think that, but Tone also says that would only hurt it temporarily as well. Tone, I believe, agrees with that. Maybe Tone can comment, but I just think that it's too late for the governments at this point. Maybe 2012, like you said, Gabriel, 2013. But Tone, what do you think? Is it too late for the governments at this point to stop Bitcoin? Go ahead and unmute.
Oh, sorry. It's my fault.
Yeah, no. Of course, it's too late. It's always been too late. Like it's too late for the governments to stop Bitcoin. Ever since 2010, 2011, it became too late to stop it. But like it was said earlier, like you can't stop the internet, but North Korea has done a pretty damn good job, right? Now, historically, the whole world can't do what North Korea's done. The 1984 scenario in reality is impossible because people eventually get fed up and they eventually revolt, right? But look at Russia, look at China. They had their communist systems for a long time. I mean, there is a lot of damage governments can do, especially when they coordinate with each other, right? I mean, look, everyone's been complaining about the Fed and the fiat money system, and yet we've had it around the world for 100 years, right? So, I mean, I'm more okay with it than the majority of our audience, but the majority of our audience has been complaining about this thing their whole life. So, so there is a lot, and who knows how long it's going to last. Everyone keeps saying the crash is around the corner, and it never actually is. So if the governments coordinate and try to go after Bitcoin, yeah, there is a lot of damage that can be done. I mean, do you think I'm going to be sitting there in my apartment in New York talking about Bitcoin if a Bitcoin transaction is deemed illegal like a drug transaction? No, of course not, right? What happens when some of the, I think I'm one of the more rational voices. So what happens when some of the more rational voices are, a little too scared to go to prison, because I kind of like, my life, right? I'm not an activist, guys. I'm sorry, I'm an analyst. That's what I keep telling people. Like, I'm not an activist, I'm an analyst. And if I can't analyze something because it's illegal, then I won't. So yeah, there's a lot of damage that can be done, but it's going to be hard to do. I mean, again, you also have to remember, government is pretty disorganized, right? Like banning Bitcoin is not as easy as it sounds. There's a lot of government coordination that needs to be done, and that's going to take another 5 or 6 years, and Bitcoin will only be stronger to make it more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen, from the history that the global monetary policy does change every 50 years or so. And, we're definitely due for something right now. And, with the collaboration, we do have the Five Eyes that are out there collaborating and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they could do anything. But so far, they can't take the price of Bitcoin down. And we haven't even seen any actual attacks that out in the open in public that we know so far. I mean, other than trying to talk crap about WikiLeaks taking Bitcoin. Oh, well, they're still taking Bitcoin, and they're probably going to take a hell of a lot more cryptocurrencies in the future. Go ahead, Tone.
But I will say this, though, I'm actually more optimistic for the future of Bitcoin in 10 years in the obvious countries like Venezuela, but also in a country like North Korea. And it's basically and Switzerland. So Switzerland, I have a huge hope for Bitcoin because they lost their monetary privacy, and they have a culture. I mean, they have a long history of being, freedom for people's money. So Switzerland could be one of the countries that says, screw you, we're going to allow Bitcoin freely. I mean, the Venezuela situation is obvious, but the one that isn't obvious is a country like North Korea, because countries that get oppressed for a long period of time, the pendulum tends to swing in the opposite direction fairly quickly. I mean, look at China. China was way more oppressive during the communist regime than Russia was. And China has swung way further into, global dominance and global relevance than Russia has since the collapse. Now, the North Koreans have been even more oppressed, right? And from what we're hearing, they're doing some Bitcoin hacking. I mean, they need Bitcoin the most. So if North Korea needs Bitcoin the most, and some of the people in North Korea are acquiring Bitcoin, when that regime finally falls, that could be the freedom capital for Bitcoin in the world in 15 years. Don't underestimate that. I mean, when a pendulum swings too far one way, it likes to swing the other way pretty damn heavy.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, from all the talk on the panel today, you guys are making me want to move to Switzerland. Everybody seems to think that that's a beautiful safe haven for crypto right now.
Yeah, I was just there. We need Bitcoin at like 20,000 before we can afford it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, hey, when Bitcoin hits 20G, we might have to all move to Switzerland. We'll see how that will go, guys.
Join us in the Italian part of the Switzerland. Is cheaper. Yeah, we are going to live there next year or so.
Nice.
I would say that. Now we can stay calm and relaxed because Mario Draghi just said that they cannot do anything to stop Bitcoin. So actually, I'm sarcastic right now, but I think we are in the phase where they are still underestimated Bitcoin, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a worse thing. I don't know. We will see, but it's a shift.
Absolutely a shift. To me, in my mind, I still don't, at least publicly, see them being very afraid of Bitcoin at this point. But as many smart people have already said, economists and fund managers and everything you could think of, at some point, I mean, even Max Kaiser, just a bunch of people were like, at this point, the governments are afraid, and I think that's the case, even if they don't show it publicly. Let's go with Sam next. I believe Sam is the last, but not least on this topic. Sam. We've talked a lot so far, so I want to get your opinions on the conversation so far and everything with Japan and South Korea taking over the Bitcoin volume.
Yeah, I've been listening. I think the variety, as Giacomo mentioned, is very good because it gives us a lot of different scenarios that we can learn a lot of things from. If every country, like you mentioned, did the exact same thing, then we wouldn't really know what to expect in the future. So I think resilience is good, but saying that, it's good that we see what's happening in China, I don't really agree there. It's easy to say if you don't live in China, but if you live in China and it just became a whole lot more difficult to use Bitcoin when you really want to, that's a really difficult thing. And it's very easy for us who are slightly more technical savvy than the average person to assume that there are workarounds which are accessible for everyone. But if you look at the average Bitcoin user, that's just not the case. They're already having trouble very often with mobile wallets and stuff and sending transactions. So expecting those kind of people to use the workarounds because they want to use Bitcoin so desperately, it's very difficult. On the other hand, the question is also like, how fast do we want adoption? If we want it super fast, then okay, seeing it banned is a really big issue. But maybe if we don't want the adoption just yet because it doesn't scale yet, then maybe it's a good thing that it becomes very complex and robust and hard to adopt. So maybe then indeed it is a good thing to see some countries ban it, even though it does affect the people that live there. Then on the other hand of the spectrum, like you mentioned, Japan is going all for it. That was sort of expected considering how futuristic they are in general and how much they love technology. You even have, I think it was announced yesterday or something, that Dubai wants to start its own cryptocurrency. Of course, that's very much a prestige thing. I'm not sure if they'll pull it off, but those kind of things do help adoption because people get used to using cryptocurrencies a lot more. And I think if Dubai starts doing it, you're going to see Singapore do it and Tokyo and whatever. You're going to see so many different cities competing to have their own coin that in the end, everyone's going to end up using a cryptocurrency and may as well switch to things like Bitcoin because it works like almost the same in the end. So I think those things are pretty good. The scenarios are very good. One thing I do want to add, and that's really going back to the bosses discussion we had earlier, like we're being trained right now. I think we're really going to see a lot of issues with privacy. So once we have side chains where we have privacy and perhaps on the main chain one day where governments are not able to track users anymore, I think that's really when we're going to start seeing coordinated attacks on Bitcoin from governments. And that's really what I currently see as the most difficult thing to do. Also considering how in China, we have quite a few miners and they might get a lot of pressure from the government to prevent us from adopting privacy on the main chain. Side chains, they can't really do it, of course, but on the main chain, that would be a really big issue. So to me, those are really the more difficult things that we'll have to tackle in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, privacy and fungibility is definitely, I think, next on the agenda for the Bitcoin core developers and really for the Bitcoin community in general. Luckily, we do have some altcoins right now that kind of provide this use case for people like Monero and things like that. So, but of course, the liquidity isn't quite there, but it is growing. I mean, it continues to grow. And I think that they provide a great use case scenario for that specific feature before Bitcoin can finally implement that in there. Because, you know, Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous. It's not fully anonymous and it's not, you know, fully public, but of course it is pseudo-anonymous. And that is what got us here so far. And that seems to be working pretty good so far. So very excited to see the stuff coming down the pipe in the future that could help with this. Confidential transactions, Mimblewimble, just a bunch of different ideas that a lot of people are working on. And this is an important issue, I believe, in the community. And we will be focusing on this and attacking this in the coming years. Absolutely. Cool.
Real quick. So as Sam mentioned, right, like China, even the potential rumor of China banning Bitcoin, it had a huge effect on the price. And obviously, as Sam just said, it had like, it's probably having a major effect on the people in China wanting to use Bitcoin. And that's all I'm saying. Like, people can't just blindly say government can't affect Bitcoin. Yes, they can. Government comes out with even a stricter policy on Bitcoin, on ICOs, on all this stuff than even China did. Yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin price can seriously crash, right? So they can affect it. So let's not be blind to the fact that in one way we want government to support the Bitcoin stuff, but you know it goes against their business model of a government, right? So they can't support it too much. But if they crack down, yeah, it's going to have a major effect, and people seem to be not willing to admit the fact that it would.
And, you know, there is some interesting people in the chat. You know, Beauty On is definitely saying some interesting things, but you know, he's like saying, you know, the governments won't attack, you know, Bitcoin just like they don't attack the web. But you know, I definitely call the CIA hacking the planet a bit of an attack on the web. They straight, you know, drill down into the damn freaking under the ocean tubes. So like, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But again, that's technically, I guess you wouldn't call it an attack. But
one of the reasons they don't attack the web is because they do more shady shit on the web than the average person does, right? I mean, if they start using Bitcoin for more shady shit than the average person in Bitcoin does, then they probably will completely stop attacking it, right? Like they do a lot of bad stuff on the web.
Yeah, I definitely think that the government uses the internet for far more shadier things than the average person. But Sam, did you have something you said?
Yeah, Tone, to get back to your point about governments being able to attack Bitcoin, I think the nuance there is that they will be able to attack the price, so to speak, with the news, but not the technology itself so much. So I think that's what you meant as well. So just to clarify that.
Yeah, very interesting. Valentin has something to add here, I believe, as well. Go ahead, Valentin.
Yeah, interesting point made by Giacomo a while ago about China and Bitcoin. And that ties into the whole government discussion as well, because what does China, or what did China do to its gold miners? Is there a private gold company in China? No, all nationalized. They are confiscating about 500 tons of output a year. They're buying as much as they can from Switzerland, the refineries in Switzerland. They're hiding it. They're not reporting the true reserves. And it is true that that has to do with a de-dollarization for them. It makes perfect sense to want to compete with the dollar, either within a multi-currency framework or by going on their own. So they're doing that with gold and taking this, you know, argument of China hates Bitcoin because they can't control it to they will control it and then they start liking it, like they do with gold, and provide an alternative backing for the currency is not inconceivable. And by the way, the same is true to a certain extent with all governments around the world, all central banks. Who controls the most gold? It's all, except for the Indian public, it's all in the hands of central banks. They co-opted that system, which used to be free money, and then they basically co-opted it. And they may still do the same with Bitcoin. Nobody can prevent them from buying up all the coins or half of the coins on the exchanges. So of course, it would be great for the price, but that's another scenario that may become true in the future.
Yeah,
well, the difference between the you know, gold trading and Bitcoin is that now that we're in the digital age and trading happens on quote unquote markets, which most of which are not markets because both sides of the trade are fiat, you know, fractional reserve quote unquote assets, fake assets. And it wasn't until Bitcoin was invented that we had a truly scarce digital asset. So in the case of quote unquote metals trading, in other words, what they call paper metals trading, you have things like naked shorts and many very, very you know, price manipulation techniques, such as creating $100 billion, you know, dollars worth of an asset out of thin air if you need it just to open a short or whatever. Now that we're in the age of Bitcoin, you can't pull that off because your exchange will go out of business in a day. So you know, it's very different if central banks are buying this up to defend their you know, fiat you know, coercive currency than it is buying up a bunch of gold and moving markets to, you know, fake digital markets.
Yep, and I guess just to walk back my point, I guess surveillance isn't necessarily an attack. I guess it's just surveillance against the citizen's will is not a good thing. But they are, you know, they are still allowing the internet to go. I mean, anybody can still put up a web page, anybody can still build a company on the internet.
I consider that an attack. I mean, I consider that an attack. You're you know, taking everybody's information, tracing them, doing you know, shadow banning and all that stuff through the corporate. No, that's an attack. CIA is attacking the web for sure.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting points, guys, so far. We have one more topic to get through, so let's go ahead and end it here if nobody else has anything else to add. Oh, go ahead, Giacomo. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think very quickly, but I think that Sam made a very good point about the problem of privacy and fungibility of Bitcoin. And I think that we could also connect this point with what happened and what's happening in China. So back 3 months ago, we were discussing with, I think it was Peter Todd, and I was saying something like, this is big, the fact that miners are blocking SegWit is just a demonstration of power. They are blocking because they can. They are not interested in a specific thing. It's not really about ASICs boost. It's mostly a power struggle. And he said, Peter said, not really, because SegWit has a lot of privacy-related implication. China government is, so we are going conspiracy theory here. But if we want to play a conspiracy theory, if we want to put our tinfoil hat on, we could imagine some interest from the Chinese government to allow Bitcoin insofar it is not too easy to use Bitcoin for capital flight, or it is easy to track and analyze Bitcoin. And SegWit is seriously damaging that possibility. Not much, not directly, but indirectly, because it allows Lightning Network, which is reality now. It will take a lot of time to development of wallet, user interface, user experience, bootstrapping of the liquidity. It will take time. But right now we know the Lightning Network is possible. It is happening right now in testnet and something very little in production and in Litecoin. So Lightning Network is a huge privacy advancement. And SegWit also allows for MUST and Schnorr, which are things that will improve even more Bitcoin. Not in 10 years, like next year, MUST will probably be around very, very quickly. So it's possible that the reason China banned or is trying to ban or something, or announcing the ban on Bitcoin, is because they were deluded that they could allow a not very anonymous Bitcoin, but with SegWit, everything is kind of different. And this could be also even more conspiracy theory, the same reason why Jeff Karz's company Block, which is profiting on chain analysis, is not really in law with SegWit. Even if now with SegWit 2x, this accusation doesn't hold anymore. So just this quick point.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate that one little thing about, with SegWit, so many things are possible now. I mean, we have things that are coming down the pipe, not in 10 years from now, not in 5 years from now, but in the next couple of years with Schnorr signatures, MAST, Lightning. We got the fiber network, that Matt Corello was working on. So many things are coming down the pipe, both for privacy and for scaling. I mean, this stuff is in the works right now. And, that's why the Bitcoin price is so cheap. It's only at $4,000, right? I mean, there's going to be so many things that we're going to be building on top of Bitcoin now that we have SegWit that is just right around the corner. And then, of course, on top of that, you have the 2020 halving, people. The 2020 halving, it's going to be absolutely huge. I mean, I think that's going to be on every single news network around the world. People are going to be talking good things and bad things. They're going to be like, with Bitcoin's halving near, chaos is being caused in this country. You know how they're going to spin it. So very interesting things. Really excited. Let's go ahead and say goodbye to Mr. Valentin here. He's got to go. Thank you so much, Valentin, for joining us. We really appreciate all your information and feedback. And tell us all, where can we find you? Oh, you're muted, Valentin.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was a great pleasure to discuss all these topics with all the Bitcoin legends here. I'm mostly on Twitter like everybody else, except for I don't have the fancy bar here yet, but you can find me at VXSchmid. That's VXSCHMID. It was a great pleasure. Have a nice day and hopefully see you soon.
All right, man. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll have to have you back. All right, guys, let's move on to the third and final topic. We got 734 live viewers here. So if everybody could go ahead and hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We're going to be talking more Bitcoin here. So let's go ahead and move on. The final topic. The Overstock company recently announced that they are actually opening an exchange for legal token trading, and the SEC just recently announced a new unit to police ICOs and other DLT violations, right? So I want to know from the panelists. We'll go with Giacomo first on this. Are these signs of an ICO market maturing, or are ICOs just going to be scams forever?
I don't know if it's a sign of maturity. Actually, it could be the other way around, because I mean, I think that that's a sign of not really understanding what ICOs are. My opinion is that the reason, one of the reasons why this bubble is getting so big is that when Ton was saying something on the same lines yesterday, the thing is that right now there is even fewer entry barriers to investors. So everybody can invest, underage people from abroad, people, insiders of the same company, they can pump and down with crypto. So one of the reasons ICO market is so huge is that it's super unregulated. I personally think it's globally a good thing. It will, of course, it will cause a super scam fest. It's happening right now. Everybody's coming. Everybody. It's a giant fraud. But the market will learn. The market will evolve. The market will mature. But what's the point of making an ICO market, a stock market, where we use I don't know, ERC20 shitty protocol or some kind of Bitcoin related protocol to trade legal normal stocks? The entry barrier for Overstock market will be the same of a normal regulated market, but they will add technical barriers in order to install a blockchain app, maybe manage private cryptographic keys, which is super difficult, super a pain in the ass for the average user, and they will have some blockchain, which is just a giant waste of energy and time and money. So I mean, I respect Byron.
Patrick Byrne.
Yeah, Patrick, exactly. The CEO. He was one of the first promoters of Bitcoin. I heard his speech at Amsterdam 3 years ago. It was great, but I'm not really sure that what they are doing with T0 and Medici does make a lot of sense. Maybe it will make sense after. So let's imagine the internet now. We are using the internet even for cases where the internet is not really needed, but we use that just for standardization, interoperability, to leverage existing infrastructure. So maybe if Bitcoin takes over the world, when Bitcoin takes over the world, and when Bitcoin-related assets that will be mostly illegal or unregulated or not really regulated at the beginning, if they take over, then maybe just for interoperability, a regulated market may start to use, instead of private databases, maybe a Bitcoin-based asset protocol. We are working at something like that here in BSB with some friends. It could happen in the future, but I think right now, what's the point if you don't want to solicit investment from unqualified investor all over the world? Why are you issuing a blockchain-based token and not just opening up a website, centralized website of your digital stock market?
I'll tell you.
Good,
I don't know.
Great points, though. Go ahead, Gabriel.
I have an answer for that. I didn't. Overstock is not issuing a token for their platform, are they?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. So the reason why for Medici, right? Isn't that what it's called? Yeah. The reason for Medici is because the DTCC is completely corrupt. And Patrick Byrne has been saying this for 15 years. So nobody actually holds stock certificates in their filing cabinet anymore. Instead, a centralized authority holds all of them and issues fractional reserve stocks. So stocks aren't actually even scarce equities anymore. So what they did, they're just running a centralized but open and transparent blockchain the sales, so that you're actually trading scarce assets instead of bullshit paper. So it's pretty much only for that, as far as I can tell.
Very interesting.
If I may, I think that's a very good answer. Using blockchain for proof of reserve or timestamping, probably you don't want to issue tokens. You just want to use the Bitcoin blockchain for timestamping or proof of publication. So it's even simpler that maybe something like open timestamps will be announced. But if that's the reason, I think it's super okay. The danger I see here is that maybe a company listing on Overstock will think that they can make as much money as ICO scammers. And that will be that will not be true, because the reason of all that money was about the unregulated market.
Yeah, no, I don't even think they're going to support it. They're just going to try to. Oh, I guess they're going to try to get. Well, obviously, if you start a company and you're doing an IPO, you're going to want your stock to remain scarce so that it can be, fairly traded and have a fair shake, because the DTCC, it's politically motivated in addition to financially motivated. So it's like, oh, you're a company that we don't like what you did, so now we're going to issue 6 times as much stock so your stock crashes. And it's like the naked shorting and stuff like that. It's a similar fractional reserve fake assets. So I think it's purely just to combat that practice on Wall Street. And I guess they're just going to try to attract existing and new IPOs to their platform, people who want the fair trading. In other words, people who people for whom the DTCC is not in their back pocket, right? So if you're JP Morgan, the DTC, you own part of the DTCC, so of course they're going to work in your favor. But if you're a little scrappy startup, penny stock or something, you're probably going to want to go with Medici so that you don't get your ass handed to you. Scheme.
That does make sense.
Very interesting, guys. Thanks so much for that. Let's go. Actually, let's quickly introduce some special guests that just decided to drop in there. Mr. Mad Bitcoins, Mr. Thomas Hunt. How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going, Vortex? It's Mad Bitcoins live from Berlin. We're joined by Josh from Voltoro.
G'day, folks.
Yeah, we're in Josh's apartment using his insane European keyboard. I don't know how to describe this to you, but the Z key is in the center of the board.
Of
I
course.
don't know if you find that terrifying or not, but
the word
Zao is very important.
The word is ausgezeichnet.
Yeah.
All right, so Tom, would you like to comment on the topic, Thomas?
Oh, I'm not interested in ICOs. I'm more interested in the way they put the enter key up and to the right, and you have to like kind of put your pinky over to the right. It's crazy.
So annoying.
That's crazy.
But I'm here to talk about virtual reality. I tried it out at Josh's house. The HTC Vive is real. You can do Google Earth. You can fly through the world. There's an art program. You can draw. And what's amazing is you draw this thing, then you can walk around it. Here's here now. Next level shit. Bitcoin, virtual reality. Obviously, my next fundraising campaign is to get the VR. But then, of course, I would never come back here. I would still be in VR. It's like a holodeck. You could be there now.
It really is amazing. It really is amazing. I definitely got a chance to check out the Oculus, and you are there once you put those goggles on. With the even if you only did Half-Life 2 engine, like you are there. That's how real it is. If something goes and that's coming at you, you will duck your head, because in the space, you ducking your head actually goes underneath the object. So really interesting.
I absolutely almost died. There's a huge open window, and I was near it, and there's a grid box to like keep you safe. But no, I could have been out that window in a second. I had no idea where I was. So.
Awesome stuff. All right, guys, let's get this conversation back on track here. Let's go to Mir. Mir, what are your thoughts on Overstock and their recent creation of this exchange for tokens and ICOs? Are they maturing? What do you think?
Well, my first thought reading the news was, do we really need something like that? Because in my opinion, it's going to take all the disadvantages, both from the ICOs and both from the SEC regulation. And also, I thought they're really ICO. There will be SEC compliant, because right now there aren't, but they are going to be. And my final thought was really T0 is going to do something like that, because they announced a lot of things in the past. So I'm not sure that is going to happen. So I'm very skeptical about it. And in any case, I see something like that not as a sign of maturity at all. If there are any advantages of ICOs, I'm totally against. But if there are, this is not the way.
Very interesting. All right, Tone, would you like to comment on Overstock?
Not really. I mean, I know Gabriel has his view on the TDCC as well, just like Patrick. But like, yeah, look, it's not a great system. It's not a perfect system, but trying to overhaul it is going to be difficult, and it's probably going to require the only way to overhaul it if, for example, America's reign as the financial capital of the world ends, and for example, China steps up in 10 years, and they do it, right from the ground up, right? Like an overhaul of that system is just not going to happen, and someone like Patrick is definitely not going to get it done, right? I mean, you just got to get a couple of PhD developers in there, a bunch of physicists. I mean, it's doable, but you also have to remember the 3-day. I mean, Patrick's biggest complaint was like that 3-day rule, the 3-day settlement. But that's a feature. That's not like it's there on purpose, and it's not a bug. It's a feature. So he's just going like buzzword to buzzword. I mean, it's no different than any of the other ones. I mean, if he doesn't ICO, he's not actually scamming anyone. So that's okay. He can keep doing his project, but it's like, oh, blockchains for settlement, and there he goes. And now it's like, oh, we need an exchange for ICOs. Like, no one's done that already, right? Like, it's I don't know. He's just trying to get more investment.
Tone, you don't know what's going on in the files at the DTC. You don't know what goes on when those messengers are sending their backpacks back and forth in the 70s. I mean, the 3-day settlement time is merely a part of this fraud that he's calling out there. So I'm not, saying that it's a feature is is fine and dandy, but having a cryptographically secure database that anybody can check is I mean having a private database that isn't being mined. I wonder if they can actually.
I know, Gabriel,
Exactly.
But
that is the part that I'm concerned about. The fact that there's fraud at the DTCC, I think I don't have trouble believing.
No, that's fine. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying that Patrick Byrne and his power of Overstock.com is not going to overhaul that system. It's literally like an ant, trying to rebuild the world, right?
Oh yeah, it's such a steep wall they got in front of them. Who knows if they have any chance?
Like anything all of these initiatives by Patrick Byrne have always been completely uninteresting to me, because I know they're not going to amount to anything, right? Like give me someone like Rand Paul with getting close to being a president leading this initiative, right? I don't think so. Paul, sorry, not Rand Paul, Ron Paul, right?
Ron Paul, yeah. I don't think any of that's going to work. I think the whole thing's going to implode like a house of cards, and it's just going to be ICO City.
Right, and fine, and I'll take that position. Like that's the more reasonable position. But if you're gonna put someone in front of me and tell me this is the guy to overhaul that monster, it better be someone like Ron Paul. And 40 years ago, right? Someone that still has lots of years to go with very high standing in the government that knows what they're doing when it comes to something like this, right? It's not going to be Patrick Byrne. So it's not interesting to me.
Yep. And, it is worth, of course, mentioning that Overstock was one of the first websites to accept Bitcoin. As Patrick famously said, it didn't take very long, only a few days. He locked some devs in a room and just shoved pizza under the doors and got it done. So that the developers could eat. And, they recently said that they are accepting or holding on to at least 50% now. Of their actual Bitcoin that they receive, where before they were only holding on to, I think, 10%. So that's pretty cool too. But like
it's just another example of the Italian culture forming the basis of Bitcoin's merchant adoption.
Exactly. All right, guys. So if anybody else, does anybody else have anything to add on this one? I think we can close it out. All right, cool. It's been, oh my gosh, almost an hour and a half, guys. So I think we had a great show. Had over almost 800 people at the peak there. Had a great time, lots of subjects. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. The World Crypto Network continues to grow. The followers, you know, you guys, the amount of people in crypto continues to grow. So let's keep that going. You know, we started out the year at like what, 7 or 8 billion market cap or something total, and now we're over 150 billion. So this is not going anywhere, and I believe that 2018 is going to be a huge, fantastic year for both Bitcoin and crypto. So guys, without further ado, let's find out where we can find these people. So Gabriel Divine, where can we find you?
I am on the corner of Sunset and Hobart. It's kind of a nothing part just east of Hollywood. No. Twitter at Gabriel Divine.
Yes, thank you for those cross streets, Gabriel. I'm sure they are accurate. Let's go with
really
Sam.
crummy part of Hollywood, very crummy.
All right, let's go with Sam. Sam Wouters over there in Belgium. Where can we find you?
On Twitter, like most people. And I'm glad you didn't make me comment on that but tricky situation, because I didn't really have anything to add to that.
Oh, I might have forgot you.
No, it's okay. I just don't have much to say there other than my stupid word joke. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Sam. We really appreciate you coming on. We know that you're doing good work over there for Bitcoin. So let's ask, finally, let's ask, you guys are killing me. Okay, let's ask Mir. I almost lost my notes. They minimized there. Mir, where can we find out more about you and Blockchain Labs?
Oh, yes, you can find us on Twitter, of course, so mir_BTC or at BHB Network. And you have to follow also ScamCoinBot. This is very important. I'm the co-founder, and I really believe in the project. So please follow ScamCoinBot.
Can we do a live demo?
Yes, please. Yes, I will bring it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll keep it outroing everybody.
Yeah.
Giacomo, where can we find you, Giacomo?
So first of all, you can find me right here, because I'm. There was a trick in the whole transmission. We were in the same office. We just scammed you because you thought that our office was bigger. And you can find me on Twitter as well, Giacomo Zucco, GYACOMOZUCCO, not Zucco like the Zcash guy, ZUCCO. And I will leave the final time for the ScamCoinBot demonstration.
Awesome. All right, let's do it, guys. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, Bort, so can you do a screen share and go to the Twitter handle for ScamCoinBot?
Oh, I don't got a screen share on here right now. You guys can screen share though.
All right.
You guys, I can click it on you.
Sure. We'll do a screen share.
Cool.
Okay.
Live on air, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you get. We are about to check out ScamCoinBot from Blockchain Labs over there.
I'm definitely getting my popcorn for this one.
Yeah. I hope it will behave well, because there are also some swear inside the grammar, but...
Okay, so we are on the Twitter handle. Oh, that's a pin tweet.
Oh my God.
Nobody docks themselves now.
Okay, so here we go. That's the pinned tweet. I want to be here. Right?
Yeah.
But then you guys can't see us. Damn it. Yeah, this is why you need to do a screen share.
Oh, no, we got Giacomo behind you.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Oh, sweet. Awesome. So here we go. So who wants to do the honors?
Yeah. You have to push it and wait for the green light. Every time the light is green, a new tweet is generated by artificial ignorance.
So it was
this time a new scam coins.
Tullifer merged for the first time in history blockchain with regtech and self-driving cars.
Wow.
Of course, there are also books like Mastering Stick Coin, an Immortal Introduction, and a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, also white papers. That's very important. Sometimes they are more realistic than the academic ones. You should read one of that.
Wait, so where is it?
Oh, yes.
Here it is.
Yes, Tulip Theater merges.
So pressing the button generated this tweet.
Yes, made by us. So
very cool, guys.
Yes, you have to be in the lab to push the button in Milan, but we can push the button for you if you ask for it.
All right, very cool. Everybody need to follow that. ScamCoinBot. Check that out on Twitter, guys.
Yes. It's a very important project. Almost 2,000 followers already. That's crazy. More
Awesome.
than PHP network.
Oh, tulip there.
All right, guys. All right, well, let's ask Tone where we can find Tone, because nobody knows where to find Tone.
Oh God, yeah. Oh no, just follow me on Twitter at ToneVase or subscribe to the World Crypto Network. I'm here every morning.
Absolutely, guys. Definitely check that out. I might even appear on Today in Bitcoin tomorrow. We'll see. It's like 11 o'clock my time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So thanks, guys, so much for joining. We really appreciate it. Again, World Crypto Network coming to you guys from all around the world. We will be back again with another episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. I was your host, Vortex, and I hope you guys had a great time. So until next time, keep talking Bitcoin.
Keep talking Bitcoin.
Keep
talking Bitcoin. No2x Twitter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.